Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville Zoning Hearing Board meeting for Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Sharon, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Grisiak?
Here.
Mr. D'Agostino?
Here.
Mrs. Wilkins?
Here.
Mr. Gatos? Mr. Hutchison?
Here.
Mr. Dice?
Here.
Mr. Weldon?
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of minutes from our September 6, 2023 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion, second, please.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Sharon. Again, excellent job.
Thank you.
All right. As we did with the last couple of meetings, we're going to flip things and knock out the new business item first without objection. And Paul, if you would, please.
Under new business, first item is 23-30-A Verizon Wireless. Applicant requests a dimensional variance from section 401.55.C.1.K of the Monroeville zoning ordinance number 1443 as amended to construct a communication tower 50 feet beyond the maximum permissible height of 200 feet for a total height of 250 feet. The property is located at 2465 Johnson Road, tax parcel 641G53 in the S Conservancy zoning district.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I take it you're the applicants. If you'd come forward, please. And we know you've signed in, but would you please state your name for the secretary, please?
Certainly. My name is Joe Cortez. I'm the attorney representing Verizon Wireless.
Tim Stark, United Site Development, assisting Joe representing Verizon Wireless.
Thank you.
Tim, will you be testifying also?
Yes, sir.
Would you, please rise, please.
Yes, sir.
Would you both raise your right hands, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God in the matter before us.
I do.
Thank you. Please state your case.
Okay, thank you very much. As the zoning officer indicated, we are here tonight for the limited purpose of obtaining a height variance. Verizon's application will comply with the conditional use criteria set forth in the ordinance. So tonight, we're just going to focus solely on the height. And I'd like to start with, what's happened just generally by way of background to the wireless industry since its inception back in the early 80s. As we all know, when cell phones became available, those were items of luxury. The only people that had cell phones were those big old bag phones. You'd see attorneys, Bruce, that would carry them in downtown Pittsburgh. They weren't accessible to most people. Since that time, in a relatively short period of time, the industry has rapidly exploded. Which once was a luxury item is today an item of necessity, not just for adults, but for children, grandchildren, grandparents, etc. So when the industry first developed and platforms were constructed, tower platforms, communication towers, they were largely located on the highways. And there was a reason for that, because they were used basically for voice purposes. So we have the tower here in the municipality right on the turnpike, which is roughly 500 feet. Similarly, you had structures that were constructed on 79, on Green Tree Hill, throughout the major highways and byways. And those were all very, very substantially constructed, roughly 400 to 500 feet. What's happened since then is, as habits have changed and as our usage has changed, which once was a phone that was utilized for voice purposes when you're in your vehicle, is now a major part of all of our lives. So the facilities need to be located closer to the end user, not for the people in their vehicles using the car to communicate. They're there for your email purposes. They're there for entertainment purposes. They're there for communication purposes. So Tonight, I'd just like to point out, and we can get into some of the other details, some interesting statistics that have come across my desk in the last few weeks as people continue to cut cords, whether it's your cable, whether it's your landline. 70% of all households in the United States today are wireless only. This is an amazing statistic. 31 billion devices are connected worldwide. 85% of all 911 calls are generated from cell phones. 280 million 911 calls annually in the United States. So as I give you those statistics, it becomes more and more apparent that connectivity is crucial. The companies, Verizon being one, is focused on that network being reliable, just as a landline would be. If you're generating a call, if there's an emergency purpose, you need that call to go through. So they're constantly planning forward to make certain that these facilities operate optimally. Because of those changes in the habits and the usage, the sites, as I said, are more close to your businesses and to your homes, because the signal needs to propagate in areas and penetrate those homes and those businesses in order for the end user to access the network. This application, as you folks are aware, is almost a joint application between the municipality as well as Verizon. A material part of this application affords the municipality the ability, and it's their intention, to utilize the tower platform to also place their emergency equipment in order for their services to fully develop and to be able to additionally communicate. So we've had ongoing discussions, and Mr. Stark can speak to those specifics, but what we are proposing tonight is a 250-foot tower. The height is necessary, the additional height is necessary for Verizon's purposes, but also for the municipality's purposes. You need this substantial elevation in order for their equipment to propagate and to be essential for the network. In addition, and what I'd like to do, if I could step back, we had submitted a lot of documentation to the municipality. I would just ask that that entire packet be marked as a collective applicant Exhibit A, because there's a lot of material in there,
Okay, we'll
including the propagation studies. I am not an engineer. I can't really speak to all the details associated with that. But both Tim and I have been in the industry for over 30 years, and if you have any specific questions about the RF materials, we're happy to answer that.
Can I interrupt real quick? I have two different packets. Which one do you want labeled A? This one?
That was along with all the drawings, and I thought we had a cover letter, Paul, that provided everything. Yes. I would just ask that the project narrative be incorporated, the construction drawings, which is a full set here.
Sir, you have to stand in front of the microphone, otherwise we can't.
And I should have stapled everything together, but they were so large that we sent them separately. So what we'd like to incorporate into the record is the project narrative itself, the set of construction drawings, the propagation maps. We also included a photo simulation and our approval from the FAA to obtain the height necessary, 250 feet. And I apologize for not having that set forth in one document, but they were so substantial in their size.
No problem, right?
Yeah, well, those documents will be made part of the record.
Okay, thank you very much. Without further ado, I would just have Tim, why don't, Tim, you just come up to the microphone and just, if you could, just generally describe the physical location of the site and how we're going to access that site and just how the site operates.
Sure. As you all know, the building and the complex for the municipality is at 2465 Johnston Road. It's a very secure setting. There's gated access. You can't get in without calling ahead or buzzing ahead. It's a very secure parcel. Once you get buzzed in from the municipality office through the secure gate, you go back the existing drive, and there will be a new 75-foot by 75-foot fenced area, 6 feet tall, 1 foot barbed wire at the top, and locked at all times. So once you're in the secure perimeter, there's another chain link fence that encompasses the whole tower. There are no guide wires that come from the tower, freestanding. Power and telephone line is at Johnston Road. It'll be brought back to the tower. And again, as everything is encompassed in the fenced area.
So no additional water or sewage associated with this?
No, sir, no water, no sewage, no underground plumbing, just a fiber line and a power line.
And how often would, post-construction, how often would the Verizon engineers be required to access the site?
On average, about 6 times per year in a smaller car than I drive, just a company vehicle
Okay,
on average.
okay. I don't have any further questions. If you want to add anything in addition, Tim?
The setbacks are noted in the plans, but huge setbacks to property lines. We picked this location, A, because there's no existing towers nearby, no existing tall structures nearby, and it was great distance from all property lines, 600 plus, 500 plus, 1,000 plus from all property lines, so huge setbacks to property lines. We took that into consideration when working with this municipality as well.
Paul, have we heard anything from any other residents or anybody?
No correspondence in favor or opposition.
We're talking before the meeting, I was pointing out on Monroeville Road out here, if you follow it down past a place called Smelt's Auto, inevitably, if I'm on the phone, I get no service there.
Yeah.
I mean, well, this will obviously correct that because of its location, or maybe not?
I'd have to stare at the propagation maps and look at the distance, and someone else could probably speak to that exact coverage hole. But I've dropped numerous calls using Verizon device out here, looking at this project and others. So I feel your pain. We do drop quite a bit of calls.
How do you rectify that, or are people that drive around and say, hey, we lost service?
Verizon has an internal department, the radio frequency engineering department. It's an engineering division out of Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, and they're constantly looking at this. This site, and I'm sure others are planned within the municipality, some on rooftops, water tanks. This just happens to be a new tower within the municipality, but they're actively trying to improve their coverage, for sure.
And for the record, Mr. Chairman, I was on a conference call the other day. This site is the top site for the Verizon network in western Pennsylvania. So there is a priority to get this site on air because of the challenges you're facing, as well as emergency service providers. They need to access the network. So this is a high priority.
Thank you. Anybody on the council?
Now, this tower, is it Verizon only, or is it gonna be shared with AT&T?
It will also be made available. There's no plans currently other than for the municipal equipment, but it would be made available to other users. Yes, absolutely.
4 municipal antennas, yes, sir. 4 municipal antennas specified on the tower and designated reserve space for their use. Verizon antennas at top. Future carriers could definitely co-locate on the tower.
Now, I know there's a tower, I believe it's in Plum. Is that an AT&T tower, or is that a Verizon?
I'm not sure exactly which tower you're looking at.
We're
I
at
can-
in
I can
Plum,
research
because
that.
we were
I
involved with.
think there's one by like Gymkhana, somewhere in that area.
On Old Frankstown?
Yeah, I think so.
There is, it actually.
It actually looks
has,
like a tree.
Yes,
camouflage
yeah, I'm familiar
base.
with that. That's
Now,
not a Verizon asset.
Okay, now, can that Verizon tower be made to look not just like a tower, but like a tree that, so it's not?
At 250
Look like a sort
feet,
of-
it would look more ridiculous.
Okay.
Because, we've done trees, we've done flagpoles when it's appropriate, especially like on a municipal building, but at 250 feet, it just doesn't work. You need the substantial foundations in order for the equipment to be co-located on there. And then that would prohibit other users as well from utilizing it.
And this location is pretty secluded. That one on Old Frankstown is much more visible.
Right.
Any other questions for members of the board?
Okay,
If not, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Yes, sir. Motion to approve.
Yes.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good luck with
Thank
your
you very
project.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Have a good night.
Have a good evening. Paul, next item, old business. Or is it, take it back, this is a continuation, correct?
well, I believe, yeah, this is the billboard, 10 variances. And I see the billboard people are here. Last month, I know that we had said, did you rest? Yeah, I think the applicant indicated that he rested. I don't know if he has anything more he wants to put on.
We just wanted to clarify one point. We don't, if that point's clarified, I don't think we have anything additional to put on.
Okay, what's the point?
The point is, Mr. Wolfington, when we were here last time, testified about the west site. And with regard to the east site, I just want to make sure that we were all in agreement that his testimony about his background, the experience in the industry, the companies, the hardship of the sites, how Wolfgate, Devco went about, or identified the sites, and the costs would be essentially the same for the east side as for the west.
I think we can agree on your summarization. You're just asking, you're saying, you want to make sure that that's what the record reflects.
We just wanted to make sure that was buttoned
Okay,
up.
I have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions. I don't know who on your side you want to, is there anybody here tonight that has something to do with the building of the sites? Do you have anybody here tonight?
I don't know that we have a construction person.
Not necessarily construction. I guess what I want to do is I want to know, does somebody have some familiarity with the zoning ordinance? Any of these guys? You wanna
Sir, were you?
Yeah, you were sworn the last
Sworn in
time.
last time? He was not.
I'll sign you in.
No, he was not.
You were sworn in the last time?
He was not.
I was not, no.
He was not here.
Raise your right hand. Go ahead.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God in the matter before us?
I do.
And your name?
Tim Earle,
Spell the last name.
E-A-R-L-E.
Okay. I only have a couple of questions. Have you been here for some of the testimony that's been given on this?
Yes,
All of it or just some of it?
all of it.
Okay. What I want to know is it possible to build a billboard in accordance with our Monroeville's regulations on the site?
No,
You couldn't build one?
correct.
Remember, okay, and
In-
you're
in-
answering that question because it wouldn't work for vision,
No,
is that correct?
it's because it would violate the sections that require new development not to endanger health, safety, welfare. And so a sign
And-
is
and- go ahead.
consistent with what's permitted under the zoning ordinance would not be consistent with that. That would not be a sign that's safely visible.
My question isn't so much about safety, it's a question as to whether or not physically, could you build a billboard in accordance with our standards on the site?
If you're,
I understand that it might be a safety issue, people can't read it, I heard all that testimony, but I want to know if you physically could build it.
not, if you're asking relative to all the requirements
No,
in your
I'm
zoning
not asking you
ordinance.
about the requirements. I'm asking you whether or not physically you could build a billboard in accordance with our ordinance on the site.
Yeah, not in accordance with the zoning ordinance, no. If you're talking about specifically the sections that say 150 square feet, 24 feet tall, those two sections, not ignoring the parts of the ordinance under the conditional use requirements that require the sign not to endanger health, safety, welfare.
And how would a smaller billboard, endanger the welfare?
I believe our engineer, Mr. Tantella, testified about the sign needing to be easily visible in order to be safely viewed by
Okay,
the
so
traffic,
again, it goes back to visibility and safety.
which is part of the conditional use
I
requirement.
understand that.
Right.
You understand, that's not my question. My question is simply, could you build a sign in accordance with the regulations of Monroeville zoning ordinance?
And I could continue.
And I think the answer is obvious, that you could. You could build that sign that small, albeit it might violate safety, it might violate the things that you guys have raised. Do you understand that? I'm talking about physical building it.
I know.
Mr. Dice, could I clarify the question? Are you asking whether you could build a sign that complies with the dimensional requirements of the ordinance, regardless of whether it complies with the safety requirements of the
Yes.
ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what, I did answer that question. Yeah, can be built, can a sign be built that high
Yeah.
and that,
Could
that
it?
size? Sure.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. And I don't know who would answer this question. I assume you have this under agreement of sale? The property?
Yes. Correct,
So you haven't bought the property yet?
correct.
you obviously are aware of all the limitations of the property now before you buy it, right? All the limitations that you've raised.
Yes.
Is the 650% larger sign the minimum size that you can build in order to satisfy all your requirements? Or could you build a smaller sign, billboard,
Yeah, no,
and still satisfy the requirements?
the
Which requirements? All the requirements of the
Yeah.
ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that testimony's already been put on the record.
Well, why don't you repeat it then?
Then, yes, that is the minimum.
Do you think you could build a smaller billboard and still comply? Or must it be 650% bigger than the requirements under the ordinance?
Yes, that's minimum,
That's the minimum.
yes.
So it's all or nothing, basically, as far as your ability to go ahead to make it financially feasible for your client, for you folks to.
So
do the
there's,
project.
yeah, you heard testimony from, I think, a few different people. Mr. Lamberger, who's, been in the business much longer than I have, he knows this area very well. He talked about the other signs in the area, the size of those signs, the competition for advertisers is one aspect of the entire feasibility of a project, one aspect that goes into determining what that minimum size is, because, we've talked about all the costs involved, not only for the proposed sign, but for any use of the property. And all those, you're looking at those from a risk standpoint of going in, investing the money, the time, the effort, building a sign, and hoping it generates the revenue that we expect it to, with other signs in the area possibly being bigger than that. If you're coming into a market with a smaller sign, even just slightly smaller, an advertiser might choose that slightly larger sign over your sign, and our revenue projections could be totally off, and we're basically underwater with a project that's not feasible. So those are all those components combined is what we've been looking at in determining what that minimum size required is. That risk would go down were we 1,000 square feet, because we know we're bigger than every other sign up and down the parkway here. But that's why I know it's on our what we have to present is the minimum relief required. It's a higher risk as a developer going in, because there's a higher potential for that, for us to miss that revenue projection, and then we're underwater with the project, and we've made a mistake. So that's where we spend a lot of time looking at it, understanding that is the requirement as we stand before you in this hearing, that is the minimum relief required.
Okay, you submitted an agreement of sale to the board, and part of the agreement of sale is blacked out with regard to the consideration. How much are you paying for this?
I don't know.
You don't know how much your company's paying for these easements, or these
No, I
tracts?
don't, I'm not.
Not easements, grants of fee simple.
Just a random question, what I had on my notes. The refresh rate on your proposed billboards is what?
The dwell time, 8 seconds.
I think we have, in ours 10,
I think it's 15 in the ordinance
15 in the ordinance, okay.
between images.
Any other questions by the board? Okay, hearing none. All right, so you're complete as your testimony.
We are done.
All right. Then I have a couple questions. Paul, you put together some exhibits, is that correct, Paul?
Yes.
You've been sworn?
Thank you. There's none.
Not officially, no.
Well, why don't you get officially?
You raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God in this matter before us?
I do.
Please state your case.
Why don't you state your name?
Paul Wilden, zoning officer, community planner for Monroeville.
Would you sign in? I'm sorry. Have it.
Did you prepare some exhibits for this hearing tonight?
I did.
What's the first set of exhibits that you have?
I'll start with the Google Earth Street View images, if Jared can pick these up.
Now, what's that a view of?
So this is a view on Old Frankstown Road, or Old William Penn. This is the parkway up here.
So it's the back of the property.
Yes, the property has two frontages.
And what's that, how do you identify that first exhibit?
This is the old Water Authority building, so this would be farther east. This is what they would consider the east site,
The one with the Water Authority building in it?
that would be the west site. That's the Water Authority building.
Okay, I see it, okay. And what did you determine when you put that together?
I was just looking at, we were very focused on visibility from the parkway. And when I started looking at the aerial images, satellite images, I realized they have frontage on Old William Penn, and they could construct a conforming billboard or billboards that face Old William Penn and not the parkway.
Okay, and would they be visible from Old William Penn?
Yes.
Now, you have two photos. How do you identify them so we know?
I will write east site on this one and west site on this one.
So those two photos reflect east and west
The two proposed
on
locations.
Old William Penn, or not Old William, yeah, on Old William Penn.
Correct.
And it's your testimony that you could build a conforming billboard on those two sites
Yes,
that would be visible from Old William Penn.
yes.
Okay, what next do you have?
After we looked at that, their expert witnesses were talking about the size of the site and constraints with topography and the stream. So this is the east site, and what I did was I just took a piece of trace paper and did a really quick sketch.
Okay, let's mark that east site.
Okay, it's labeled east right
Okay.
here. And what I did was I put in a retaining wall and did the grading around it, and I was able to, they were already proposing a bridge over the stream, so I reused that, and I was able to create a parking lot and get in a 400 square foot building.
How high is the retaining wall?
On this exhibit, it is 14 feet at the highest point.
Do we have retaining walls in Monroeville higher than that?
Yes, we have one at the Penman Road that's over 100 feet tall.
Okay, do we have other ones that are higher than 14
Massive,
feet?
yeah. The one by Coles is 50, 60 feet. The one holding up the Sam's Club is massive. You can't see it from the road, it's in the back. But there's some very large retaining walls in Monroeville.
Okay, so 14 feet isn't that high then?
No, and that's just at the highest point. It goes from 14 feet down to 0.
Okay, the next drawing that you have,
Similar, just the other site.
what do we refer to this as?
We'll refer this one as the west site. And I did the same thing. Again, they were proposing a bridge over the stream. I put in a retaining wall, graded it. This wall was only 5 feet tall, and I was able to get 9 parking spaces and a 700 square foot building. And just for reference, right across the township line of Murraysville, there's a place called Griff's Ice Cream, Griff's Ice.
Griff's Italian Ice.
Griff's Italian Ice. That building is under 500 square feet.
Do you have pictures of those?
Yes.
How many?
I have 2. There's
Okay.
this one.
So
and
we
one.
have a total then of 2 of Old William Penn Highway, 2 of the the site east and west with retaining walls, and 2 of a use that has about 400 square feet in it.
It's 476 exact.
And that's the last photographs, is that right?
Correct.
Are there any other uses that could be made of those 2 properties, given your drawings, your site plan showing buildings on it?
I just have a list of some simple shops that would fit in, roughly 500 square feet. Right down the road here is Rudy's Subs. It's a very small store. Blaze Pizza is right on 22. It's a very small store. Donna Lynn's Pizza Shop, that's on Route 22 in Murraysville. Della Salas Pizza, that's an old house in Penn Hills. Old Village Grill, they do gyros. It's out of an old Dairy Queen. A small Dairy Queen could fit in there. Rita's Italian Ice. Maybe a small catering business or like a law office, 1 or 2 people. So there could be other uses on the site if you did a little extra work.
Do we have any other signs, or rather, any other billboards that have, that are as large as the ones that are being proposed here?
Not any.
650% bigger than our ordinance
Not
in Monroeville?
No.
Okay, if you have any questions of the witness, you're
Can we
certainly
enter
welcome.
these items as?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna wait until he's done with it.
Okay.
You testified that it would be possible to put a 400-square-foot building with a couple of parking spaces on the east parcel if somebody did a little extra work? Is that your testimony?
Correct.
But in the absence of doing that extra work, there'd be no way to put that building on that parcel, correct?
Well, it would be site land development. Standard land.
In the
development.
absence, go ahead, I don't mean to interrupt you.
That's all.
In the absence of the work you described, it wouldn't be possible to put a 400-square-foot building on the east parcel, would it?
You mean on the existing conditions?
That's correct.
No.
It wouldn't be possible, okay? Have you obtained any estimates for the cost of doing this little bit of work on the east parcel?
Nope.
You have no idea how much it would cost?
I could do a rough estimate, just from previous land development applications.
But you haven't gone out and done any specific work for the cost of the improvements
No.
that you were requiring here?
No.
Now, the businesses you described, what's the cash flow from Rudy's Sub Shop?
No idea.
What's the cash flow from Blaze Pizza?
I don't know the cash flow of any of them.
Okay, so not the other pizza place you described? Okay, and you don't know the cash flow from, was it Griff's Italian Ice or Griff's Water Ice?
You
Nope.
have to answer.
I'm sorry?
He has to answer verbally.
Oh, okay.
I do not.
Okay, so you don't know what the cash flow would be from Griff's Water Ice?
Correct.
Okay, so it's fair to say that you wouldn't be able to tell us whether the cash flow from any of these businesses could support the cost of the improvements?
It's not my concern.
Okay, it's fair to say that you wouldn't be able to tell us whether the cash flow from any of these sites would support the cost of the improvements?
That's not my job. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't answer that.
So you don't know whether the cash flow from any of these businesses would support the improvements that you're talking about?
Correct.
And that's true for both the east side and the west side?
Correct.
You heard, you've been here for, this is the third hearing you've been here for?
Correct.
And you heard all the testimony during the first two hearings, correct?
Mhm.
You
And
have
you,
to say yes or no, don't.
Yes.
and you heard the testimony about how these parcels were created in their current form by the eminent domain or the taking for building the parkway, correct?
Yes.
To your understanding, that's correct?
Yes.
And the parkway was built in the early 1950s?
Could be. I don't know.
Okay, so that property's been there for 70 years and it's never been developed, correct?
Correct.
And all that time, nobody's ever done this little bit of work that that you've told the board about?
There's lots of vacant property in Monroeville that hasn't been built on, but You're correct.
This is among it, correct? Okay.
Correct.
And in all that time, nobody has built an Italian ice shop on either of these parcels, correct?
Correct.
And all that time, nobody's built a Blaze Pizza on either of these parcels?
Correct.
Excuse me. Were you here for Mr.? Sorry. Mr. Hado's testimony about the traffic on the Parkway?
Yes.
And you were here for his testimony about the speed on the road?
Yes.
Would you be able to tell the board what the average speed is on this stretch of William Penn Highway?
No.
Okay. Would you be able to tell the board how many cars per hour go by either of these sites on William Penn Highway?
No.
No. Do you have any experience in financing billboards?
No.
No. Okay. So it's fair to say that you've never had to deal with anybody or with a potential lender about construction of a billboard?
Correct.
And you don't know what the factors are that they would consider in that examination?
Correct.
Do you have any crash or other safety information for this stretch of Old William Penn Highway?
Not right now, no.
Okay, not as you're testifying to the board tonight.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, if I may take just a moment?
Sure.
Thanks. I'm sorry, let me make sure I understand this. Sorry for the delay. Now, the drawings that you've based your testimony on, they are Exhibit West 3 and Exhibit East 3, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and those are the two site plans, correct?
Correct.
And you developed these sketches on the basis of the site plans, correct?
Correct.
Did you have an opportunity, did you compare the sketches that you've made here against the hardship analyses that were submitted in evidence as Exhibit West 6 and Exhibit East 6. And I'll give you a copy of West 6 right now.
I did not.
You did not.
I just wanted to see what could actually fit on the property.
Okay. Are the setbacks marked on your drawings?
They are not.
Okay. So you wouldn't be able to tell the board whether the shops that you've drawn in here comply with the Monroeville setback requirements, correct?
The setbacks, the building locations on the sketches exceed the required setbacks.
Okay. And how about the parking areas?
Parking meets the criteria required for the square footage of each proposed building.
Okay. But you don't know whether it's within the developable space?
It is within the developable space.
Okay. Now, what you've drawn, is any of it within the floodway?
The one encroaches
Mm-hmm.
on the floodway here. This sketch does not. It is
Which is which,
Yeah,
Paul?
which is which?
So on the west exhibit, I'll pull this down.
How much of an encroachment?
About 20, 25 feet. This line is delineated as regulatory floodway. And I'm not sure where they got that from, if it's just a FEMA map that they traced on there, if it's actually surveyed information. If it's not surveyed information, it could fluctuate. On the east exhibit, it's a lot steeper, so the floodway is a lot narrower. So this is the 100-year flood plain. And all of the proposed development is on the dry side of the floodplain. It's outside of the floodplain.
One moment. Mr. Wilden, I don't have any further questions at this time. Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
I want you to put your zoning hat on again. Do you care at all about whether or not the use is profitable?
No.
Is that a consideration in whether or not we grant a variance or not?
No.
Whether or not the use that's being proposed is profitable or not profitable?
Cost is not a factor.
Anyone else have any questions?
Just had a general question about the floodplain issue, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but under either proposal, billboard, OW, OPH, Devco, or your ice cream stand, both parties would have to get approvals from the DEP or to go into that property to
They would
build a
need,
bridge?
for the bridges over the stream, they would need permits from DEP. I don't know if they would get to the level of a joint permit where the Army Corps of Engineers would be involved. That would get figured out during the application process.
Okay.
For my sketches, this one is outside of the floodplain.
Okay, which one's that?
Sorry,
That's west.
east.
Oh, I'm sorry.
East exhibit is outside of the floodplain. West has encroachments in the floodplain. It's kind of minor, the way I graded it. Currently, the center of the site is elevation 914. My proposal is about the same elevation. So it would be a minor encroachment. It's not, they're not changing the floodplain a lot. It wouldn't be that big of an encroachment.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody
Other
else that has
questions?
anything? With that, then, I'm going to make sure that Sharon gets those 6 exhibits as part of the record, okay?
Yes.
So you can get copies, and supply a copy to council of all 6, and again, what they are, they're 2 of the Old William Penn Highway, 2 of the ice creams, or not ice cream, but
Frozen ice.
frozen ice stand, and the other 2 are the site plans that you
Sure.
put together and demonstrated, okay?
Oh, a couple more questions. Have you ever been involved in the development of a frozen ice stand as a developer,
As a developer, no.
Have you ever-
Designer.
as a designer? Okay. Have you ever been involved in the development or design of a pizza restaurant?
I didn't hear the question.
I didn't either.
Have you ever been involved in the development or design of a pizza restaurant?
Pizza restaurant, okay.
Maybe. I did design work for 20 years. I may have done a pizza shop and not remembered it, but
Okay.
certainly small sites, though.
Okay.
I don't have anything further. Thanks.
Okay. I think that ends the testimony in this matter. Do we all agree? I think we do. I'm going to indicate to the applicant and to you that the testimony now in this matter is closed. You have, I believe, 45 days to respond to this. If you want to take an additional time until your next month's meeting, which is 30 days, to make the decision, you could do that, or you could begin voting tonight. There's 10 variances. So what's your pleasure?
It's a pleasure of the board.
I say we wait till, take the 30 days.
One other reason why you might want to wait is Mike, the missing
Right.
board member, he's not here tonight, he's
Here.
away in business. We'll be back next month. So if that's the case, then a motion is in order to close the testimony and render a decision in the November's meeting. Do I hear that motion
I'll make a motion.
on those 2
Yes,
things?
sir.
Second? I'll second. Motion and seconded.
All
Sharon,
those-
you have the?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that, next month, we will make the decision on the application. That gives you a little bit of time to think about what's going on here. And it gives Mike a chance to get back. All right, that's it.
You have one other motion, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much and good night.
You didn't have the sheet for the Verizon